We build brands for humans, but the first judge of your next message is now an algorithm. Are you marketing to the machine before the customer? This week on Strategy Talks, I'm with Mark Schaefer. He's a best-selling author and business coach. We'll be talking about his latest book, How AI Changes Your Customers. If you're ready, I'm ready. I'll be right back. This is Strategy Talks.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Morin-van.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you today. And I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching us live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, please let us know in the comments. If you are watching us on the replay and you're seeing it on one of these platforms later, let us know. Myself and my guests can monitor. And if you have questions, be happy to answer them. Last but not least, I want to do a quick shout out to all of you who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast. We know you're there. We appreciate that you're listening. And thank you so much. So without much further ado, I say this every week. It's such a weird thing to say, but here's my guest, Mark Schaefer. He's my friend. Mark and I traveled to Suriname together about 3 years ago. It was a fantastic week we had in South America. If you don't know what Suriname is, look it up. It's an amazing experience. And I've just been wanting to have you on my show ever since then. I don't know why it just never happened, but you wrote this new book. And I was like, let's get into it. I'm ready to talk to you about this new book and about AI and all the stuff you found, Mark.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. I'm just smiling, seeing your face and remembering our adventures in South America together.
I know. That was so fun. That was so fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Mark, you wrote a book, How AI Changes Your Customers, with the subline, The Marketing Guide to Humanity's Next Chapter, right? When you wrote, when AI becomes your customer's brain, AI becomes your customer, it felt kind of like a shift. What led you to that conclusion? And how do you see it reshaping what's happening? How has it changed what we're doing in marketing?
Well, first, let me take a step up the ladder, one rung, and tell you like where this book started.
Sure.
So, because it kind of plays into your question.
Okay.
I wasn't really intending to write this book. I was actually intending to take the summer off, but then I was part of a research project. They brought 300 futurists together to answer this impossible question. How will AI impact humanity or change humanity by 2035? And these futurists in the final report actually came to consensus on some things. And it was such an interesting report. I asked the sponsors if I could turn it into a book, and they agreed. And so that's sort of the genesis of the idea. And one of the big conclusions in the book comes down to decision making. And humans are beginning to trust AI more and more for making decisions, and not just small decisions, but even things like, what job should I take? Where should I go to college? Who should I marry? And I recently went on a trip to Paris, and I went to AI, and I said, hey, I love history, I love art, I love nature. Plan this 5-day trip for me, including all the restaurants nearby I should go to. And I want to, give me the right transportation to get there at the right times. And it gave me like this perfect itinerary. There was no advertising. There was no brand content. AI created the whole, purchasing flow for me. Now, what I talk about in the book, and I've actually got a blog post I'm working on with this title, is that we're all in the diaper business now. And
What?
we're all in the diaper business now. And what I mean by that is, so I have a beautiful new grandson. He's an expert pooper. So he goes through a lot of diapers. Now, if you're selling diapers, you're not marketing to the end user. You're marketing to the decision makers. That's mom and dad. Now, increasingly, the decision maker in our world is AI. It's an algorithm. It's not our end customers. So in this example, where I had this entire trip to France planned for me, somehow the businesses behind this itinerary had to work their way into AI to create these recommendations. And so it's a whole it's a whole different mindset. It's even beyond, like SEO. SEO, at least, you get maybe choices, but AI is giving you the itinerary. It's giving you the answer. It's giving you what, very specifically. And here's another concept that is so important to think about. When AI creates these recommendations, the conversion rate compared to SEO is 23x. So these are people, who are trusting AI. They're trusting this decision, and they're buying and they're acting. And so this is a really important idea for the marketing world today.
Now, I want to ask you about trusting AI, right? Because, sometimes AI hallucinates. Sometimes it gives us wrong information. Sometimes it, I think people are afraid or don't know, especially, users that aren't marketers, right? Because we're in this marketing bubble. We've been using AI for years. I talk to people in different industries and people in sales, and they're not using AI like we are. So they don't know to push back. They take it for the truth. And then, did you do that when you did that trip to Paris? And did you push back on anything? Did you verify anything? Did the restaurants that it recommended, were they all right? Like, how did you, I'm just asking, verify that all this information that it gave you was indeed correct? And then we'll move on to the next thing. Because
there's actually two different important concepts here. So to answer your last question, I followed the itinerary exactly, and it was outstanding. And in fact, one of the restaurants was so good, I went back to it twice. And now, so that's part of the answer. But here's another part of the answer. I have a friend that lives in Paris, and she's part of my marketing community. And she learned I was going to France. She said, "Oh, if you're going to Paris, you've got to go to this bakery because I know you're gluten-free and you just can't miss it." So I didn't follow the itinerary precisely because I also use recommendations from friends. So that we also have to think about, we can't overlook, Doreen, AI overrides. So look, if AI suggests something, I'm going to consider it. I'll probably do it. But when a friend tells you to do it, you definitely act on it. So word of mouth marketing, reputation, more important than ever. Brand, more important than ever, right? Here's the other part of the itinerary. Said, okay, I want to go to Paris for so many days, plan the trip, but I'm going to use Delta Airlines because that's my preferred brand, right? So we can't overlook basic marketing strategy. Yes, we need to sort of immerse ourselves in this AI world, but basic marketing strategy still works better than ever. It's more important than ever. Now, let's get into a little deeper this idea of trust. And it gets into an important chapter of the book about empathy. So human beings are creating literally stronger and stronger emotional bonds to AI because it comes across as empathetic being. It's not, I mean, it's an algorithm, it's an illusion of empathy, but increasingly that's good enough. And there is a bright side of this. It is helping people in positive ways. We hear a lot of the negative, scary stories about AI, but it's also helping in a lot of positive ways. And the end result is that now 8% of Gen Z claim they have a significant, meaningful relationship with an AI bot. Now, so it's become a trusted friend. And maybe it doesn't get it right all the time, but neither does a human being. So you've got this AI bot that never judges, never criticizes, never rolls their eyes, never, rolls over and falls asleep and goes to bed when you're upset about something. And so there's a positive side of this, there's a negative side of this, but it all sort of reinforces this idea that AI is becoming a much more important decision maker in people's lives.
I think it's true. I mean, that's what's happening to me. I'm sure happening to you as a new grandfather. Just for an example, you're probably asking AI about developmental stuff. Your kid's grown up, and so I can totally see that. So let's talk about where we're entering a phase where marketing must appeal to algorithms before reaching people. What does that mean? When you're saying, that diaper theory, how do you then talk to the algorithm versus people? Is that copy? Is that I don't know. Let's talk about that piece.
Well,
how do you change the strategy for that?
There's really an emerging cottage industry emerging, as you would expect, to try to figure that out.
Right.
And what we see is that there is certainly an intersection between traditional SEO and content marketing, and I don't even know what we're going to call the whole AI thing, AI search or AI whatever. And that intersection is generous, helpful, accurate content. Social signals, validation. So, me being on your podcast, that sends a signal to AI that, hey, Mark must, Doreen has a certain image about her. She has a certain reputation about her. Mark's kind of in that group. So good for Mark. That kind of provides some validation. So AI is kind of looking at all that. And I think in a more important way than traditional SEO. For AI, backlinks don't matter. Validation and reputation matters. So if I'm showing up on people's podcasts and people's blogs and even in the mainstream media or maybe an academic paper, that's going to be much more highly valued by AI than maybe SEO. Another big difference is quality of the content. We know Google wants to see quality, human, human-led content that's written for humans. AI doesn't matter. AI doesn't care. AI never gets bored. All it wants is data. So there's sort of this idea that you've got to have extreme and clear data about who you are and what you do. So for example, one of the things that was recommended and one of the things I just created for my website is an extremely detailed FAQ. So no one has to look at a homepage and kind of dig into what I do. I lay it out very, very clearly. I am a speaker. I am a teacher. I am an author. I am a consultant. Here are the things I do. Here are the types of people that I work with. So, and the third thing is that at least right now, textual content is highly prized over video and audio. There's two reasons for that. OpenAI has come out clearly and said, look, AI isn't really good interpreting human tone and facial expressions. So if you and I are joking and I say, oh, Doreen, I'm happy to be on your sucky program. Okay, it would come across as a joke. It wouldn't be coming across as a judgment. But AI just looks at it as a piece of data.
Right.
So number one, it's more difficult to interpret than text. Number two, it's dramatically more expensive for AI to process video and podcast versus text. So it's great to have a video. It's great to have a video or a podcast, but make sure you offer AI a transcript or some sort of interpretation of what you're doing. So those are some of the things. It's still an emerging market. In the book that we're talking about, how AI changes your customers, I go into quite a bit of detail about both on-site and off-site. This social validation, these AI social signals that we're talking about, into how we can start to influence that algorithm.
Yeah, well, I'm very glad to hear all this. I, like you, have worked on my website. I'm adding more content. Been doing this video podcast for 4 years, and on and off, I have created some blogs about the about the podcast. But this year, every single episode now has a blog post to go with it, create it from the transcript, because those are all original words that we're just talking about. And I've added more context, more pages. I love the idea of a frequently asked question list on your website. That makes a lot of sense. So I am doing some of those things. Also, that point that you made about being on my podcast, again, I have this video podcast, but everybody else that comes on is the expert. I am the facilitator. I am the interviewer. So I've made it a point to be on other people's podcasts to talk. I think this year I'm going to be on like 12 or 15, which is quite a lot more than the previous years each year. So yeah, making an effort to be seen and then to feed the algorithm with, the AI algorithms and with that information is really great advice. So I love that. I feel like talking to you, Mark, I'm on the right track. So if you're listening, if you're watching and you feel the same way, let us know in the comments. I would love to know if you are doing some of these things as well. So let's talk about, is there a way to reverse engineer like this SEO thing that we're doing, right? So it's going to be different. Like you talk about, giving it the FAQs and being seen. Is that kind of what we're doing? Like it's reverse engineering SEO, or should we just think about it as a completely different way?
Well, I think it's just like we've got big companies like Ahrefs and SEMrush trying to unravel the Google algorithms. Those same companies and more are trying to do the same thing with AI. They're creating databases of millions and millions of queries, and you can see where AI is searching for these things, right? And so they're recording that, and they're trying to figure out, where are the big places they're getting this information. And I want to emphasize that I don't think anybody should really panic right now, because one of the conclusions I've made is that if you're doing a good job with your marketing and with your content, you're okay. It's not going to be dramatically different for AI. Like you, I've not done a great job with the transcripts of my podcasts in the past. And sometimes I've actually been a little lazy about it, but I'm going to go back and start creating better transcripts, because I have so much content out there that's probably underweighted by AI because there's no text that goes with it. So we're still learning. one of the other things that we're seeing with AI is that they value fresher content. So, I mean, again, if you're doing a good job and you're publishing every week, you got nothing to worry about. But I saw this one statistic. I thought it was sort of humorous that AI wants the rule of thumb is 26% fresher content.
What does that mean?
Well, it looks at where does SEO get its recommendations, and where does AI get its recommendations, and the data going into the AI recommendations is 26% newer than what SEO is using. So, but again, I mean, if you're out there doing good work and you're doing it consistently, you're on the right track.
Okay. Let's talk about trust, right? If everybody's starting to use AI, I know you just created a Mark bot, which is awesome. I am using that. It was fun to play with it.
Yeah.
How are we dealing as marketers with trust, right? We're going to talk to the algorithms instead of, the AI instead of to the customers, consumers. Where is trust in all of this? Are we losing trust? How can we build trust? Should we worry about trust, or should we, all of us are just going to trust AI to do the right thing? What do you think?
Oh my gosh, that's such a huge question. Well, I think at the highest level, one of my favorite marketing quotes is, "A brand is trust." It's just that simple. That comes from Steve Jobs. It's a very famous quote. So at the very, very highest level, trust is paramount. Trust is everything. And unfortunately, trust is in decline. It's in decline everywhere. And especially with businesses, brands, and advertising. And I think a lot of it, Doreen, is because we've forgotten our roots. We've forgotten why we're here. And the reason I'm in marketing, I started out as a journalism major. And then in my junior year, I took my first marketing class and I opened up Principles of Marketing by Dr. Philip Kotler. And it said, marketing is a combination of psychology, sociology, and anthropology. And I thought, that is the coolest thing ever. Marketing is all things human. How many people talk about it that way anymore? We're comparing our tech stack. It's about optimization. It's about squeezing something more out of our SEO or our email, lead nurturing campaign, which is a friendly way of saying, I'm going to keep annoying you till you block me. And we forgot that it's about trust. It's about connection. It's about humanity. And I'm not saying I'm against tech. I'm not saying I'm against performance marketing. But we've over-indexed. We've just over-indexed because it's performance marketing. It's easier to measure. It's easier to do. You could put money in and you could measure how much money you can get out. And brand marketing and creating that emotion and that trust, it's harder to do. And I'm hoping that with AI that we find this renaissance of really putting the human back at the center. And that sort of gets into a whole different conversation. But I think personal branding is going to be more important than ever because, it seems like day by day and week by week, you just see this deep fake apocalypse coming at us where even I'm a fairly digital sophisticated person. I'm a well-educated, experienced professional. I can't tell. I'm being fooled. I see this stuff. I was at a meeting the other day. I said, "Oh, did you see this crazy song that was on there? What a fake." I thought that was a fake. I thought that was real. And so in this world, this deep fake apocalypse, we're always going to need to turn to a human to help us figure out what is true. What do we do? What is right? And so the personal brand is the epitome of trust.
Mm.
It's the most important thing that we do. I teach a class on personal branding. Doreen, this is the most important work I do. This is the last stand we have against AI. And I don't want to hijack the conversation, but just
No, I love this, because my next question was going to be about community and about building.
This last little story. When ChatGPT came out, there's a famous tech analyst in New York named Shelley Palmer. And I said, Shelley, did you try ChatGPT? He said, I'm terrified. He said, I've blogged every day for the last 15 years. And I asked ChatGPT to write a blog post for me, and it did a perfect job. In 3 seconds, I am 80% replaced. On the surface, that does seem terrifying. But what's the 20%? It's his personal brand. He is known. He is trusted. He is beloved. We will always read his blog. We will always read his books. We will always seek his truth because he's known in his industry. And AI cannot take that away from him. And that's the last thing we have left as human beings in this field of marketing. And so, for every listener, I hope you're working on your personal brand. I implore you to do that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, when you were talking about videos earlier and the fakes, the Sora app, now there's all these terrifying videos out there, and you can collaborate with other people. People can put you in their videos. And I put it on my phone. I got access to it. And then I looked at it and go, no.
Same thing.
I just
same thing.
Don't want to go there. That was, no, I don't want to. And so that's why doing a video podcast like this and having real conversation with real people. And then I wanted to get to community. I know you have a community, you have a wonderful community. And if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're not connected with real humans, if you're working in your little silo at home or in your office, the best thing you can do is find communities of like-minded people, reach out, find mentors. A lot of the conversations that are most important are not happening in the view of everybody else. They're happening in communities. That's where people are building networks. That's where people are learning from each other. That's where people are experimenting, collaborating. And that's what I know to be true. And I know you have a wonderful community. I know a lot of people that are in your community, Mark. And I know that they, anybody that's in a community that's given them value understands what I'm saying. And I think that is the human connection that we need to keep. If I need a tech stack, I know exactly who to go, what community to go to ask, right? If I need a recommendation for a video editor, I know I don't put it on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I know where to go. I know who to ask. And if you can build that community, that's going to be really important. Mark, before we leave, you were part of that 300 futurist, I was going to say experiment, but this, What do you see happening? 2035 is not that far away, 10 years, but AI has just come and just changed the way we think about marketing and how we market. What's happening in another 10 years? What do you see as a futurist? Because you do always think 10 steps ahead of everybody else.
Well, two things. So first of all, the reason I wrote this book is because everybody's writing about AI, but they're writing about prompts and they're writing about tactics. No one's talking about the psychology. Human beings are literally being rewired. Their psychology is changing because of AI. So, number one, we need to get ahead of this as marketers. If humanity is being rewired, our customers are being rewired. And the success in marketing is knowing our customers better than anybody. We have got to get ahead of this. Number two, when I participated in this exercise, this study, it made me think about the word humanity. What really is humanity? And so when we talk about AI changing, we talked about personal brands. It talked about, how does it impact community? How does it impact, our SEO? But how does it impact humanity? What really is humanity? So think about how did people define humanity 200 years ago? They would say, well, I need shelter, I need food, I don't want to die, and I need to keep having babies. I'm going to work in the field. I'm probably going to do the same job my parents did with the same tools my parents did, 200 or 300 years ago. Humanity is much different, but it's inside of us, it's still the same. We need safety. We expect, we celebrate safety. We celebrate family. We celebrate, just sustenance. We celebrate, creativity. And so if you look at what are the things that don't change, don't overlook that in your marketing strategy, because that's how you build a business, right? Famous quote from Jeff Bezos at the beginning when he started Amazon. Someone said, well, what's the new technology you're interested in? He said, well, that's an interesting question. But the more important question is, what's not changing? I think it's going to be impossible 10 years from now for someone to say, I want to pay higher prices, I want slower delivery, and less choice. Those things aren't going to change. That's how I build my business. And so look in your customer base. Don't be overwhelmed by what is changing. Look deep inside and say, what's not changing? And how do we continue to help our customers with that basic humanity, those basic human needs that are never going to go away? And that's where we can really build a business.
I love that. Thank you, Mark. I know most people know who you are and where to find you, but let's remind them. Where are you most active on social media, and where can they find you online?
Well, it's easy to find me online. You just have to remember businesses grow. If you can remember businesses grow, you can find me. You can find the blog and the books that we've talked about here. You can find my social media connections. You can find the MarkBot, which people actually love. It is. I discovered today it is now the #1 page on my website, the MarkBot. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I went there a couple times, but yeah, no, it's fun to play with, and so absolutely, that's great. I'll make sure to link that in the show notes so people can try it out and more people can check it out. So, Mark, thank you for being with us today and being so candid and forward thinking about AI and giving us something new to think about and to really work on when we talk about serving our customers using AI, or in this era of AI, a new way to think on how to approach what we do, how we do what we do, how we market, and what's coming in the future. I really appreciate you being with me today. I appreciate all of you who listened and stayed to the end. Thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. Bye, everybody.